The aim of this video is to help promote insight and awareness into mental illness during a worldwide pandemic, both the problems caused by it, but also the benefits and the insights that can be gained from it. Aimed to promote greater awareness and insight in the general public into mental health and the services available for those struggling with mental health problems, particularly during the lockdown. Everyone in this video comes from Preston or the surrounding area, and their experiences are Lancashire based. I've lived with mental illness for all of my life. I suffer from Asperger's and schizophrenia. Actually, it's wrong to say suffer, although it can make things difficult at times, and desperate attempts to fit in have led to degrees of suffering. It's part of who I am, and as much the root of my strength as it is my weaknesses. I came out of hospital several days before the lockdown came into place. It was a very surreal time for me. For the first time in nearly 4 years, I was free, and yet I couldn't go out the house. I couldn't celebrate my release with family and loved ones, and all the plans I had and all the things I wanted to do when I was finally out of hospital went out the window.
Well, my experiences with mental health began really when my children entered adolescence, and both of them developed a severe and enduring mental illness. It's been a long and quite traumatic journey, with them frequently being sectioned and taken into hospital, with them making recoveries and relapsing, with feeling like my voice didn't matter, and feeling that neither me nor my children were being listened to. Learning a foreign language. It's hard to summarise the whole experience in a few words, to be honest. But I guess the thing that most comes to mind is the loss of your dreams and expectations that you had for your children. That when they develop a severe and enduring mental illness, those dreams and expectations die, and you have to recalibrate and start again. And the experience of coronavirus and lockdown, well, it's hard to know where to begin. I mean, when it first came in, I would say I suffered really severe anxiety, because I thought it was going to be like some post-apocalyptic film on the television, with vigilantes roaming the streets, raiding houses for food and medicine. But after a few days, when I realised that it wasn't the end of civilization as we knew it, I actually really started to enjoy lockdown. Most of my normal anxieties were reduced because there were no expectations on me. The hardest thing in my life was going shopping, but everything else dropped away, and I just saw it as a time of peace, sanctuary and recovery. I mean, I was lucky in that I have a nice home and I have a garden. I wasn't confined to a small flat. But yeah, I would say on the whole I found it very, very helpful. I found no traffic on the streets, like you could walk down the middle of the A6 without any danger. It was wonderful. In terms of my children and their mental health, well, it's been a mixed bag, really. I mean, my daughter was lucky in that she would just literally before lockdown came out of a 3-year stay in mental health hospitals. And so for her, initially, it was a sense of freedom because she was out of hospital, but then she was free, but she was in lockdown, so that was a bit frustrating for her. She certainly, because she'd just come out of hospital, got lots of support. My son, who was doing quite well but needed some support to help him become less socially isolated, all his support fell away and he was completely isolated, and because he lived on his own until the easing of lockdown and this idea of a bubble, he was completely on his own, completely isolated, seeing no one and no mental health support. So I think that was a very negative experience for him.
Down is where I discovered how bad my dissociation was, and PTSD. Well, I've got CPTSD, complex post-traumatic stress disorder, various things, varying forms of abuse, accidents, near-death experiences. And the most serious ones came back during the beginning of lockdown. I can tell you the exact date, actually, it was the 12th of May. About all day and all night. For the next week of my life, I was existing in 1984. I believe it's 1984, that's what I tracked it down to. That's when I started dissociating. That's when I became catatonic, literally catatonic, could not talk, could not function. What can you do when you're 4 years old? That's pretty normal, really. He's not very talkative, it's fine. I learned to talk, but I've learned to talk as someone else throughout most of my life.
Well, my experiences of mental health really began as a youngster because I was, I had problems right from being at primary school, and only latterly as an adult was I diagnosed with having recurring depressive disorder, but it's always been there, something that I've lived with myself since being quite young. I deal with it without antidepressants because for me I find that they aren't helpful. I'm quite reactive with medication, so I've learnt to deal with my depressive side of my personality through exercise and being active and things like meditation, and also having the support of really close friends around me that I can go to and I can talk to honestly and openly with people who I know completely understand. So that's my own personal sort of experience, and also I know people that I'm close to who also have bipolar disorder, and I've been able to observe how their mental illness affects not only them but also how it impacts on people around them. And I think the common thread, if you like, regardless maybe of the particular type of mental illness, is the importance of the support network around you. So whether you're on medication or whether you're not on medication, I think it's virtually impossible to deal with any kind of mental health problem or illness completely by yourself. And this is where the recent few months with the situation with COVID has been difficult and testing, because some of our support networks are obviously shut down, and whereas you still have the communication that is available through talking on the telephone or online with Zoom meetings and all these kinds of things, it isn't the same. So you're missing that human connection, and for me personally that is very important. And also another aspect is that, as I said before, I myself like to use exercise as a way of dealing with depression, and that communication and sense of social engagement with people within a gym setting, and that has been closed down. So that has been something that effectively has it's been a prop that's been taken away, and yeah, that's something that has been probably the hardest things. The two things there, the being shut away and not able to go and actually physically see the people that I can trust to listen when I might need listening to, and also the opportunity to go and be active again within a group of other people in an environment that helps me. So that's probably the two main areas where it's affected me.
So I've struggled a lot with my own mental health problems. I was quite severe at one point and I was in hospital for 3 years. I'm managing a lot better these days, and I want to use my personal experiences to help others. So I decided to apply for the mental health nursing course at uni, and I'm now finished my second year and on to my third year. So yeah, I feel that I'm able to empathise with people and use my own experiences to help others. I feel the coronavirus pandemic, with all the self-isolating, it has been quite difficult because, you know, I've more time to think about things and lost a lot of my distractions and coping skills. So, but saying that, I feel I've actually managed quite well with it, surprisingly, because I've taken to like other coping strategies like reading, things like that, cooking. So I've actually found new coping skills through the pandemic. With regards to my work, so we usually have unpaid placements, but during the pandemic, with all the pressure on the NHS, it's been harder. You know, we've not had the staff to support students, so we were asked to take on a paid placement. So we were counted in the numbers, and I did find that quite stressful, really. But I've been doing bank shifts, and at times, you know, when I've struggled a bit more, I've sort of had some time off from working bank shifts, but I'm hoping to get back to that soon. So I just I'm praying we don't go into another lockdown, because I'm due to qualify next year, so I feel it would affect that, so fingers crossed. So a lot of you know, it's been hard for patients to go out on leave, and the wards are closed to visitors. So thinking back to that time when I was a patient, I think the highlight of your week was having visits from your family and friends. So also going out on leave. So I think, you know, that's a really restrictive environment for him, and you know, I think I know they've had to put these measures in place to contain the spread of the disease, but I think it's quite sad as well, and it must affect people who are already struggling with mental health.
My experiences of mental health are through my son developing depression and anxiety at the age of 12, and eventually becoming psychotic and then suicidal ideation. And my mum also developed dementia with Lewy bodies, which took her in the end. She passed away within 5 years of developing that. And which happens quite a lot is that I ended up developing mental health problems as a result of caring for both of them and working full time. So I developed carer burnout, basically. The way I've been affected by coronavirus and the lockdown has been very positive, actually, which is at odds with a lot of other people that I've spoken to. Because my life was quite busy before lockdown, helping people and going out and about, I enjoyed the opportunity to be on my own, do my own thing and have time to do things for me, so I found it quite a positive experience. But I do know that a lot of other people have struggled with the isolation and also the fear of the unknown as regards the virus.
Well, I support people with learning difficulties, autism, similar sort of conditions to that. Now I support 3 gentlemen in particular, and for 2 of them it's been quite stressful. They're quite social people, they enjoy getting out in the community, spreading just themselves about a bit. They're used to their routines, and even many months afterwards they're still expecting to do activities. They don't quite understand what's going on, so that's very frustrating for them. where I've got one gentleman with autism who loves the restricted contact with people. He seems to be loving it at the moment, but the other two seems to really take its toll with anxiety, stress, just a disappointment as well, looking forward to things and them not coming to fruition, and with us being able to give no real clear answers on when this is going to stop and life's going to get back to normal, it doesn't really make it any better for them.
So my experiences with mental health are mainly with teenagers in school surroundings, and I deal with students from around about the ages 14 to 16, and I see them on a regular basis if they've got anxiety or emotional issues, or they're stressed about exams. Yeah, and that's what I'm doing at the moment with mental health. So over the last few months, obviously because of coronavirus, it's all been very different. So I haven't been able to go into work as much, and so the students haven't been able to have that one-to-one contact so readily. The coronavirus for some students has been a little bit of a blessing. So those students who were very anxious about sitting exams, they are now quite relaxed and chilled because they've not had to do their GCSEs. And so for them, the coronavirus has brought some calm into their life. But then you've got other students who were really looking forward to taking their exams because they've worked very, very hard, they've put a lot of effort in, and suddenly that's all been snatched away. So they feel a little bit cheated. And then you've got other students who, for them, their home life isn't always great. So this coronavirus has meant they're at home all the time. And if home is quite an unhappy place for them, then, that's bringing a lot of stress. The dynamics have changed. They're at home all the time. They're having to deal with parents who perhaps they're not getting on with, or siblings. They're feeling quite caged, not being able to get out. So for them, their anxiety or their mental health problems have escalated. Boom! Suddenly we're in this really emotional sort of trap where we can't get out. So for them, that's been quite bad. And then you've got other students who do have social anxiety, and again for them this has been a blessing, because suddenly they can stay at home, they can stay in their room, they can play Xbox, they don't have to go into school, they don't have to get on a bus, they don't have to mix with people. So for them this has been brilliant. But now we're finding that the thought of going back to school and the thought of having to get back on that bus and having to go back into that school situation, that's when the anxiety is starting again. And I think when September comes and we go back into school, then we're going to see a lot of that. A lot of the children that have social anxiety, that's going to, again, raise its head there, definitely.
This video marks a unique point in time, and whatever the future holds, whether the virus continues and we learn to live with it, or with viruses like it, or whether we cure the virus and lockdown and all the restrictions become a thing of the past, this video shall stand as a record to what it was like at the beginning, and to how lockdown restrictions and the threat of a virus affects people's mental health.